Welcome to Speaking in Spoons with your host, Christina Brookman.
Hi, this is Speaking in Spoons, and I'm your host, Christina Brookman, for our first Spoonie Sunday of May 2003. Thank you for sticking with us through April. We needed to take a break. I needed to gather some spoons. Still working on collecting them and saving mine. I've been dealing a lot with my health. Um, my migraines have just gotten pretty severe, and just been dealing with a lot of paralysis. Um, and it's just very debilitating and makes it hard to do a podcast or anything. Actually, yesterday I have home health got started up again for physical therapy and occupational therapy. I ended up canceling it because it was too much. And some people might think like, well, how can home physical therapy and OT be too much? But they evaluated me and I was assigned 2 visits a week for physical therapy and 2 visits a week for occupational therapy. And that's a lot. And I mean, if you actually do the work, it's work. And I need to do the work. But the reason I need this home physical therapy and occupational therapy is that it is so difficult for me to leave the home. Not just that I can't drive, but that outside environments, I can't control my triggers as easily. So the lights and the smells of doctor's offices. I mean, I'm typically in a wheelchair when I go to the doctor's office because I'll just get paralysis from, people's perfumes, lotions, the bright lights, colognes people randomly wear, or the soaps that people wash their hands with, and most definitely the hand sanitizer that is everywhere these days. And it's not something that people think about. And when you're having home health, they have equipment that they bring to your home that they're required to sanitize between each visit. And I've had home health in the past, and they were able to adapt with me and use cleansers that didn't bother me. But with this particular company, my insurance changed, and they're a great company. I just have a very odd condition that makes it challenging with what they need to do to provide safety for everybody. But I will mention to companies out there, while not everybody goes paralyzed with scents, scents are a big trigger for many people for many conditions. And regular migraines, which are also extremely disabling. People will be locked in their rooms for days and have to miss work. It is extremely disabling because of somebody's scent. So Lysol, things like that, it really is best for any medical environment to stick to non-scented cleansing equipment. Vinegar based is really wonderful. Like I have all vinegar based cleaning, and I have and nurses don't, and therapists and doctors don't need to be wearing perfume and lotion to the office. Wear it off work duty, because it is extremely disruptive and disabling to people's lives and triggering. You can set off asthma attacks that are dangerous. So that's just something to consider and be cognizant of, and to not make the patient feel that they are the cause of the problem. Um, because and make them feel any more different than they already feel. Like, I already feel like a freak. So, the suggestion of, well, we can get you your own equipment and we can do this and we can do that. While it's a great adaptation and accommodation, it really made me feel pointed out and singled out. And, they didn't have to do that with the last company. Um, they just didn't use really smelly shit that would irritate many people with many conditions. And also like when they clean it and then store it in their bag in a car and travel around, it's gonna exacerbate the smell. So it's just being considerate, which I think is something we can all take the time to do. Um, Something, and I mean, I got spoiled with my last PT and OT, so they already gave me some really good information that, I mean, those of you know, when you find a good PT and OT, it's a gift. Like, they're doing it because they love it. And anybody that is in the medical field or any field that is doing it because they love it, to be in their presence is a gift. And I learned so much from them. And I'm just going to take what they taught me and do the work every day and not be a baby. Like Way said, get up and do my work. She'd always be like, men, babies, get up, do the work. Um, and I never wanted Way to show up and call me a baby. So I was like, I will do my work. So Way, I'm gonna do my work. But I will, I also wanted to talk about something that has kind of been a passion of mine for a while now, as both of my parents are getting older. But I've seen it become more and more of an issue, not just for elderly people or people with disabilities and chronic illnesses, but we forget. I think people can take for granted, and I know I certainly did, and other people, you take for granted your health. I mean, although I've always dealt with sickness and chronic health, like, sometimes you take for granted what you have until you don't have it anymore. So there are very important things to have in place so that should anything happen, your loved ones can advocate for you, and fight for you. Because if those aren't set in place, their hands are pretty tied. I think people think just listing somebody as an emergency contact, even when it's a family member, they often can't do anything these days because of strict HIPAA regulations, which need to be there for your very own protection. But it makes it very complicated when things happen. And COVID taught us things can happen any day, anytime, to anybody when it's not expected. And people aren't just born with disability or chronic illness. It often happens later in life, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, 50s, 60s. It happens. You get hit by a car, you have an accident, your condition, you didn't know what you were struggling with, and it becomes progressively worse till you finally get a diagnosis and you had to stop working. But things happen. So there's a couple of things I'm gonna throw out there. Power of attorney. Everyone should have one. You can have a medical power of attorney and you can have a financial power of attorney. You should have both, because if there is ever a situation when you cannot talk for yourself or think for yourself, someone's going to need to pay your rent or your mortgage, and have access to those finances and take care of that for you. And they can't without that documentation. You don't want them looking and panicking, trying to find out where things and what your codes are. If they have a document, they can just go to your bank and get it. I mean, that's happened to me when I've been hospitalized. When I had the steroid psychosis, all of a sudden, my apartment complex was threatening to evict me because my mother couldn't access my bank account to pay my rent. And that was my mother, you know? Um, so financial power of attorney, medical power of attorney, emergency contact, next of kin doesn't mean anything. These are documents you can find easily online and you can do for free for yourself. And you want to have these discussions with your loved one. Should anything happen to me, what do I want? Am I an organ donor? Do I want to be put on life support? At what point would I want to be taken off life support? These are hard discussions, but they're very important discussions to have. Should I pass away? What do I want to be done with my body? All of these things are very important. The other thing to keep in mind is have these documents organized, easy to find, and give the people that are your powers of attorney copies of them. So in an emergency, they're not trying to find them. The other thing that I would also do medical release forms, because I have recently found out with certain hospitals that power of attorney in certain situations isn't always enough. You also need a medical release form from hospitals and doctors' offices signed for your loved ones to access your medical information and be able to get it to people for you to advocate for you. So that's very, very, very important. Another thing that I would say, people have called me OCD, but nurses and doctors love this about me, and especially the EMTs that have come to save my life. I have a caretaker cheat sheet. And the way it has my name and my birthday and my address right at the top, because those are the first things they ask you when you're being admitted into a hospital. I also list the name and the phone numbers of my medical power of attorney, and then my emergency contacts underneath. I list the hospitals that I would want to be directed to, my first and second choice. And for me, it is very critical because my neurologist is at a certain hospital. And I've had poor treatment at other hospitals. So I make sure people fight for where I want to go, no matter what they say. And you can ask for what hospital you want to go to. They're going to say, we're being directed to another hospital, or that one is closed off. You still have the right to say, this is the hospital I want to go to. I list all of my doctors' names, what they treat me for, and their phone numbers. I list all of my diagnoses, and there's a lot, but I list all of them. I list, if I go to the ER, I get a special migraine cocktail. So I list what that is so that they know to do it, what it is. I list all of my allergies and I do it alphabetical, and what the reaction is. I list all of my medications alphabetical. And then I list my medications by the time of day I take it, alphabetical, and like the dosage, and again, what it is for. And it is a schedule of medications so that people know not just what the medications are, their dose, what they're for, but exactly how I'm directed to take them. At the bottom of it, I have my pharmacy and the pharmacy number and the person that you talk to at the pharmacy, because I'm on a special delivery program with my pharmacy and they have a coordinator. So yes, I'm extremely OCD, and some may say over prepared, but I have learned it is so much better to be over prepared than under prepared. I also have a second sheet called What to Do If Something Happens in an Emergency. And then it breaks down literally the process of, if I start having paralysis, you need to ask yes or no questions. I can do thumbs up, thumbs down. When I stop being able to communicate with that, ask, do you want to go to a hospital? If I can't even give you an answer, call 911. If I can answer yes or no, I'm the one in charge of that decision. But caretakers still have a right to call 911, but I, as the patient, always have the right to refuse service. And then there's a breakdown of who to call, like a phone tree and all of that stuff. And I email this to all of my powers of attorney, because you can have 2 powers of attorney, and my emergency contacts. So everybody has it. We have it posted in my room, downstairs on the front door. My mom has a copy because I live with her now. My caretaker keeps a copy, and I keep a copy in all of my purses just in case. So OCD, but I would say the right amount of prepared, especially with the conditions I have. But like I have found out, you could have nothing, and then all of a sudden you have something. All of a sudden you can't speak for yourself. All of a sudden you're in a situation where you cannot advocate for yourself, and those that love you can't do it either because they don't have legal permission to. Make sure they do. Make sure they have medical documents, notes from your doctor that say, this is what you have. This is how your medication is supposed to be taken. I tell people this. I've been telling this for years, but people never think they'll need it. Someday someone or yourself is going to need this. Please set this up for them and set this up for yourself. Are looking forward to seeing you on next Spoonie Sunday, and we've got a great month for you. We've got disability in the arts, or accessibility in the arts, rather, and we have some great guests and some great thoughts. So looking forward to sharing that episode with you this month, and hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you.
If you want to contact us, please send a DM or email to speakinginspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have or would like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. And check out our website for all of our upcoming episodes and what's happening in the Speaking Spoons community at www.speakinginspoons.com. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.